Good morning, and welcome to our hybrid gathering of Summit Unitarian Universalist Fellowship Sunday Worship Service. I'm Suzanne McQuaid, Service Associate, and I'm happy to have with me from our Summit family, Carolyn Woodbury, Pat Summers. We're recording today's service, but we'll turn it off for the joys, concerns, and feedback at the end. And we have happy to have Dr. Karen Fullingstad with our prelude.
Good morning. I'm going to play the Nobody Knows the Trouble I've Seen and All Night, All Day, Angels Watching Over Me. So they're kind of two of the same coin. Oh, it's arranged by Mark Hayes.
Thank you, Karen. Wonderful as always. I wanted to explain about the lack of masks up here. If you're presenting and you have a negative test, we can take off our masks. Welcome again. We're a liberal religious community bound by shared principles, drawn from world religions, humanist teachings, nature, science, philosophy, and personal practices. We are a religion of love and inclusion. Our mission here at Summit is to commit ourselves to building a more compassionate, just, and sustainable world. If you're new to Unitarian Universalism or to Summit and would like to know more about us, you can find us on the website, summituuf.org. On the visitors button, you can fill out an online connection card. And someone will follow up with you. If you're here today, just find and want more information, just find someone with the name tag. Announcements. I hope there's an auction announcement coming up.
Yay, auction. Who's ready? Who's ready for the auction? So we just want to let you know, in a moment, we're going to have a slideshow of previous auctions. But we just want to let you know that anyone that wants to bid, whether it's online or in person, will need to register. That information will be coming to you from Eleanor about how to do that. If you need assistance with registering, which is an online process, help will be available the night of the auction at the registration table, which is going to be in the library, opening at 5. The live auction bidding will only be available in person the night of the auction. You'll be able to see the items online, but the bidding for those will be at the live auction. The silent auction, which will be in the salon, that bidding will be available online from January 15th to the 20th, and will continue the night of the live auction in the salon beginning at 5. So masks will not be required at the auction, but we will have masks available for anyone that wants to wear them. And Renee has some exciting, she made headbands. If you would like to purchase a headband to support the auction and your costume, please see Renee. And I just kind of wanted to tell you the timeline. 4 o'clock, childcare for auction volunteers will be available. 5 o'clock, registration in the library. Childcare for all opens at 5. And the silent auction begins in the salon, along with savory appetizers. 6:30, the silent auction ends, and 6:45, live auction begins. We encourage you to wear costumes if you like, whether it's a headband or a full out roaring 20s. Let's get back in the swing. And we'd like Eleanor to come up and just give you a little bit of information about how the registration will happen. And then followed by an awesome slideshow.
So silent bidding opens next weekend, and near the end of this week, you'll receive an email that will have the link to the auction with instructions on how you can register to be a bidder and enter your credit card information, and you can start perusing and bidding on things for the silent auction. And I'll try to include as many instructions as possible on there so it's easy for you. And if you have questions, email me back. Thanks.
The Mitchell family will be leaving us the end of this month to move to Kansas City. And we have a card over at the entrance on the back on the table for anybody that would like to sign and put their best wishes in a farewell card. Thanks.
Okay, anything else? And I'd like to say thank you to all the people working so hard on the auction. Okay, the slideshow. Anything?
Whoa, here it. Yeah.
Thank you to whoever put that together. And a few more things. Okay, yes, thank you to all the people working so hard on the auction. I don't know who everyone is, but Joanne and Nancy, Eleanor, Debbie, Wanik, she'll be calling you for food donations probably, Mark. And thank you to, it was touching to see all the people who are, some of the people who are no longer with us in that show. And also thinking of Tyler on his journey to Kansas City. So if he's out there on Zoom today, we thank him. Thank you to Rin, Patrick, Aaron, and Carol and Serafina who put a lot of these things together. Okay. We want to acknowledge that we stand upon land that carries the footsteps of many generations of Kumeyaay people. This land is part of a relationship that has nourished, healed, protected, and embraced the Kumeyaay people to the present day. It is part of the worldview found in the harmony of the cycles of the sky, balance in the forces of life, and the balance, harmony within our bodies, and the harmony with the world around us. We acknowledge this legacy from the Kumeyaay. We find inspiration in the Kumeyaay spirit to open our minds and hearts. We're so glad you've chosen to be with us for a time of connection and reflection. We invite you to stay after the service for joys and concerns and feedback to Pat and Carolyn. And we hope we see you for coffee and cookies after that. Okay, chalice lighting. Carolyn's doing the reading and I'm doing the lighting.
To face the world's shadows, a chalice of light. To face the world's coldness, a chalice of warmth. To face the world's terrors, a chalice of courage. To face the world's turmoil, a chalice of peace. May its glow fill our spirits, our hearts, and our lives.
Ready for the hymn and the aspiration. Rise in body and spirit. May love be the spirit of this fellowship. May the quest for truth be its sacrament, and service be its prayer, to dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, and to help one another in fellowship. This is our aspiration.
Resilience by Adrian Rich from Natural Resources. So much has been destroyed. I have to cast my lot with those who, age after age, perversely, with no extraordinary power, reconstitute the world. Okay.
Good morning. I have a story to share with you today, and I have a visual aid that we're going to use. And you guys can come up if you want. I don't have any storybooks, or you can watch from there where you can see better. Okay. So this is a sign our kids made. This is our 8 UU president. Did you help with that? Yes. Mason helped with this. So we've been talking about finding our center. That's our theme for the month. And one of the things that we center on is the UU principles. There are 7 principles that the Unitarian Universalists have adopted. And these principles have helped us to know what we value for nearly 40 years. It was in 1984 that the principles were adopted. Now, this language is our children's language. If you want to see the formal language, it's on the back of your order of service. So, but this is the children's language. So 1 is respect the worth and dignity of every person, offer fair and kind treatment to another. You and I grow wiser together. Goodness and curiosity guide our searches for fun. By listening deeply and deciding together, we make better choices. I join you as we work for peace and freedom and justice, value and care for our world, for the web of life that connects us all, and build a beloved community free from racism and oppression. So these are the 8 that Summit has adopted. And since we are a living tradition or faith, we expect that this will change, right? Because living means it's constantly moving, it's constantly changing. So our centers are moving, right? And right now, UUs everywhere have been invited to share ideas about what our values are at the center of our faith. So our principles were written by people, right? They're not written by God. And something exciting is happening right now with them in Unitarian Universalism. I think it's every 10 years, we're supposed to relook at them. It's in our bylaws to relook at them as in the Unitarian Universalist Association bylaws, and to revise them and see if they still fit. Because when you grow,
you outgrow your clothes sometimes, right? And we may outgrow the 7 principles. In fact, some people say we have, which is hence the 8th, which Summit has adopted, the 8th principle. So now in some religions, the center's fixed on teachings like the Bible or the Quran or other scriptures and texts. Nothing wrong with that. It's just different from how we are. We believe that life changes, and so do our understandings of faith, right? And there's already been changes to our principles and sources. There were only 5 sources at first, and the Unitarian Universalist Association voted to include Earth-centered spiritualities in 1996. I was actually at that vote. I was a young adult voting at GA for that one. It was really fun. So we've also changed our second source, which used to say words and deeds. It now says words and deeds of prophetic people. It used to say languages of prophetic men and women. So people is a much more inclusive language, isn't it? So the 8th principle, which Summit has adopted 2 years ago. 2 years ago, we adopted it. Yeah, which states a journey towards spiritual wholeness, but we are journeying towards spiritual wholeness by working to build and devise a multicultural beloved community by our actions and accountably dismantling racism and other oppressions in ourselves and our institution. So many congregations have already voted on that. And we're like I said, 2 years ago. But all of this has really put together folks that are really rethinking the new principles. And Dr. Paula Cole-Jones, who spoke with us virtually, is part of that process. So now there's something called the Article 2 Commission. I know this isn't a whole big exciting story, is it? Talking a lot of business. So the Article 2 Commission, which is asking everyone, including adults, youth, and children, what's the value? What is the things that you value here? How can we make a new set of principles or revise ours to reflect what we value? So we're a faith that values sharing ideas, right? And wisdom with each other. And we value building our faith from the people who are in the Unitarian Universalist community. It takes a while. It's challenging, but we're going to try to revise them. And I have seen what they're working on right now. And if you imagine that octopus being replaced by the word love, they're centering on love. Isn't that what we all center on? We center on love, being together. I'm not talking gooey romantic love. I'm talking the community love. So for me, love is at our center. What is at the center for you? Right? So that is my story for you today. I hope you continue to explore your center. And we're going to do our children's affirmation. Do you guys want to come up and help me do the affirmation? You don't have to. I know Mason's real good at it. Come on, come and help. Anybody who wants to, come and help me. Oh, Jen's going to come. It's voluntary. You don't have to do it. You don't have to do it if you don't want to. Ready? All right, we're going to go for it. We got the parents up here. We are Unitarian Universalists, a people of open minds, loving hearts, and healthy hands. And with that, we're going to head back to RE. We're going to play with what we want to have at our center. So thank you for listening today.
Thank you, Mary. And before we have our music and then our offering, I want to say thank you to the presenters today. And you can see by the audience that our own presenters are our favorites. So please, we've got Pierre signed up for the future and Mark and Amy, but we hope more of you, and you can get away with as little as 6 minutes. So it would be one. Oh, and Becca, we've got Becca signed up for a future presentation. Okay, song number 361, Enter, Rejoice, and Come In. Brownish, grayish book. Stand, spirit and body. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Don't be afraid of some change. Don't be afraid of some change. Oh, thank you. Today in. Don't be afraid of some change. Don't be afraid of some change. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Offering. We are a fellowship supported entirely by the voluntary generosity of our members and friends. We greatly appreciate our faithful pledgers who continue to keep up their monthly contributions. If you're moved to support Summit today, we have a virtual plate going on the website, summituuf.org, with the donate button down lower on the page. And if you're here, thank you. Generosity is one of the spiritual values we recognize as central to our personal and our institutional well-being. You are now invited to participate in the blessing of giving as the ushers come to accept your gifts. Thank you. Thank you, Karen.
For offertory, I will play the second movement of the Beethoven Pathetique Sonata as someone who was a composer that was very resilient in the loss of his hearing, and he overcame this to write some wonderful, wonderful music for us that's lasted many hundreds of years. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. A house of our dreams. We, all of us, build houses for our dreams. The masonry and lumber, glass and tiles, a solid form wherein we see our hopes, a shelter and protection for our growth. This house shall be a dwelling place for courage, for integrity, for love. Engendered, nourished by a family that speaks of we and means all humankind. These walls shall represent the privacy and dignity of individuals, the open doors, the welcome to all people, all ages, and all generations. The windows shall keep light of inquiry illuminating from outside and within. May all words spoken here be born of love and energy rekindle in our hearts. Of those who dreamed this house, who plied the tools, who paid the price to actualize the dream. This is a precious place, as every home that shelters those who love and strive to share. Its blessing is in lives that meet within, in living, learning, caring, sheltered here, by Dory Foster. And our first speaker on resilience, Pat Summers.
Okay, thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
I was supposed to speak in November on courage. However, I was doing it from home on Zoom and we had some problems. So I'm talking today on courage and resilience. During one of our Tuesday morning conversations with Reverend Everett, he shared with us a document called Capability Analysis. It was part of a larger career assessment that the Unitarian Universalist Association wants every prospective minister to complete early on. It requires a person to analyze their most significant achievements, which may have occurred at home, in school, socially, or in community life. This analysis often leads to increased self-knowledge, discovery, and verified potential that helps one establish realistic objectives to begin to put one's potential to work. It is not a test. The analysis asks you to list 20 or more of your achievements, then go back and put an X next to 7 of those you feel were really great achievements. Last, you rank them in order of their importance to you. I decided to use this process when considering my talk about courage and resilience. I added the age at which my achievements occurred. 6 of the 7 were between the ages of 12 and 15. The 7th was when I was 20 years old. At this point, I want to tell you about my background. I am one of 13 children. My parents divorced after 11 children. My mother went off with another man, eventually marrying him and having 2 children. My father, an alcoholic, got custody of my 4 younger siblings, the youngest less than 1 year old. 2 of my siblings died, one in a motor car accident and one from anaphylactic reaction to a bee sting. A younger sister was adopted by my aunt. I am the 5th child. We lived at the beach in Kona and rode the bus to school. During my 5th grade year, my teacher asked if I would like to spend the week with her and return to my family on the weekends. She lived in the middle of the bus route. She was alone during the week as her husband worked in Waimea, starting a ranch and building a ranch home and a town home. He returned to Kona on weekends. The Hawaiians have an informal adoption system called Hanai. I lived with them in Kona until I was going into the 7th grade, when their homes in Waimea were completed. They asked if I wanted to move with them to Waimea, and I agreed. At the time, Waimea was home to the Parker Ranch. It was the largest ranch in the United States, owned by one person. At Waimea Elementary and Intermediate School, I was the girl who lived with the school teacher and the rancher. The community mainly consisted of Hawaiian Caucasian ranchers and Japanese farmers. I am both Hawaiian and Japanese. I was embraced by both sides. By the 9th grade, I was elected class president, student body president, editor of the newspaper, and was a song and cheerleader for the basketball team. I was born into the Catholic faith. My guardians in Waimea were Mormons and attended church Sunday mornings and evenings. I loved the Mormon church. They socialized, I could ask questions, and children participated in the Sunday worship service. I prayed a lot and felt closest to God or Spirit during this time. I did not kneel down and pray at certain times. It was more of a running conversation while doing my chores. During my 8th grade year, I was selected to be one of 2 students to represent Waimea in the Big Island Spelling Bee. Geraldine was the best speller and Bernice the second best. I was the 3rd best speller. And I was chosen. Rumor around school was that I was a teacher's pet. I asked my teacher about it and said I would not participate, and it was true. She shared that she and the principal decided that under pressure, I would be the better candidate. My teacher took Geraldine and myself to Hilo for the spelling bee competition. In the middle of the auditorium, around the 8th row, sat a girl around 14 years old. She smiled at me encouragingly throughout the competition and seemed to be there only for me. I did not see her smiling at any other contestant. I could not see my teacher in the auditorium. I prayed that I would last longer than Geraldine, the best speller. After Geraldine missed her word, I prayed that it was all right for me to sit down. When there were about 14 of us left, there were 52 contestants. I had a very clear feeling that I would win. Then there were 2 of us left. We were taught to spell the word in our hand 4 times before spelling it out loud. I spelled the word 4 times in my hand before spelling it out loud. However, when I spelled it out loud, it was different from the spelling in my hand. I reached out for the microphone and said, "I'm sorry," but the buzzer didn't go off. I went on to win. I looked for the girl in the auditorium, hoping that she would come up to me so I could thank her, but she was gone. I have often thought about her during my life. I was thriving at school, but the situation at home was deteriorating. My guardians argued daily, and I was not allowed any time with friends after school. I had tasks to complete every day. My sophomore year required me to take a 40-minute bus ride each way to the high school. My guardian was restricting access to my friends, especially boys. I discovered he was keeping my mail after I answered a telephone call that I was close to. My friend asked me why I didn't answer his invitation to a dance. My guardian answered from another part of the house, "No, you cannot go." This told me that he was reading my mail and not giving it to me. he was also turning to me in unhealthy ways. I knew it was time to leave, but where to go? I could not go home to my mother. She had a new family. I did not want to live with my father. And I could not remain in the same situation. I had been accepted at Kamehameha School for Girls in the 7th grade, but my family could not afford the tuition. I asked my homeroom teacher for a conference and shared my dilemma. My teacher suggested I write to the president of the school. Admission closed in March. This was May. I wrote to Colonel Kent, the president of the Kamehameha schools, and stated that I would like to attend Kamehameha and I would need a full scholarship. I received the admission packet during the summer and completed it. Kamehameha accepts boarders entering the 7th and 9th grade. I would be entering the 11th grade. The only question I remember on the admission packet asked a parent their opinion of their child. I wrote I could not answer the question because the child was completing the packet. 2 weeks after school started, I received a telephone call from Kamehameha stating that I was accepted with full scholarship. They would also pay for my plane fare to Oahu. I was the only boarder accepted in the 11th grade. When I notified my guardians I was leaving, Uncle didn't say anything. His wife told me I was an ungrateful child for leaving them when they had done so much for me. I could not tell her why I was leaving. Classes at Kamehameha are divided into sections. A and B are college prep, C business, and D and E vocational. I would have chosen the C section, business, because I needed to have a skill after graduation to support myself. Kamehameha placed me in the A section, college prep. 2 weeks late for school, with no friends, I was placed with the class leaders. For 2 weeks, I was extremely homesick and cried every night. Eventually, I made friends and adjusted to the routine at Kamehameha. I received 3 scholarships from the University of Hawaii to the University of Hawaii when I graduated from Kamehameha. I did not apply for any. When I look back on my life, I think of my decisions. Was I courageous? The definition of courage that I like defines it as the ability to do something that you know is right and good, even though it is dangerous, frightening, or very difficult. At the time, it was weighing my options, maintaining my self-worth, and going forward as best as I knew how. I believe there are angels, people you meet along life's path who intervene without your knowledge to guide your way. In my case, mostly teachers. I had to grow up fast. I lived in paradise, the ocean, lush fruit trees, tropical weather, many playmates. But my life was not paradise. Interestingly, as an adult, Kona, the beach, and family are my favorite place to visit. We have had family reunions for about 40 to 50 years, every 2 to 3 years. Lately, every year. There are approximately 250 people in attendance. Would I change my life? Very little. Would I wish it on anyone else? Definitely not. Thank you and namaste. Thank you. Okay.
No, thank you. And now for something completely different. I didn't get any great scholarships. I had a pretty normal family life and I was close to my parents. I have a very challenging chronic illness. I think I look pretty healthy now. And I'm reliable to be able to show up for commitments. But that hasn't always been the case. My first hint that I might have had a digestive problem was in my second year of college. I had a nervous stomach, loose stools, and surgery for hemorrhoids at 19 years old. Next, I began to have unexplained cramps and shooting pains. The doctors at the college thought, well, you know, you're a girl, you probably are pregnant. And if you're not pregnant, you probably want to be pregnant. Well, neither one of those were possible. I was still a virgin. They gave me some prednisone, though, a steroid to lessen the inflammation, and I felt better. But I didn't have a diagnosis or a reason why I was having these symptoms. By the time I was engaged 7 or 8 years later to my husband, Peter, I couldn't make it through a meal at a restaurant without getting up and going to the bathroom once or twice. I was over 30 when I learned that I had a lactose intolerance. Changing my diet, taking lactose pills helped, but didn't eliminate the digestive problems that I had. At 32, my gynecologist thought that I had endometriosis and scheduled me for surgery for that. Didn't find that. What he found was something called a retrocecal appendix. Your appendix is about this big. Mine was that big, wrapped around other organs and leaking. He took it out and also took out my ovaries just in case. By the time I was 34, I was in pain all the time, very thin and weak. So weak, I couldn't walk up and down a couple of steps, even where there were rails, without assistance. I could not carry a book from where I'm sitting to where Eleanor's sitting, even if it was level. I spent my days while Peter was at work, lying on the living room sofa watching soap operas. The only time in my life I ever watched soap operas. I kept getting worse. I was waiting to get better, but I wasn't getting better. I was getting worse and weaker, losing more weight. I began to worry about what was my husband going to do if I died? Should I tell my parents? I didn't want to worry them. But on the other hand, I thought maybe they'd want to know. They might be mad if I died and didn't tell them that I was very sick. I really thought I was going to die. At that time, I managed to get an appointment with a new GI doctor who ordered a test that I had never had, a small bowel follow through. I had had upper GIs, I had had colonoscopies, everything looked good. Nobody could find any reason except psychological that I was having these problems. When he looked at the results of the small bowel follow through, he determined that I had something called Crohn's disease, an inflammation of the small intestine. When he showed them to me, even I knew, having never looked at x-rays of my insides or anybody else's, there was something definitely wrong. There were puffy areas, there were skinny areas, there were twists and turns and little lines going between them, shortcuts from one part to another part. He put me in the hospital for 6 weeks on intravenous feedings to give my gut time to rest. I overheard a specialist who had come to see me talking to the nurse and asking where I was because I wasn't in my room. And she pointed down the hall where I was walking with my machine. And he said very clearly, and I could hear him, "She can walk." That was when I really got scared. At 38, I did get better from the rest and from some more prednisone, which was about the only thing they could do for me at that point. And I went back to teaching. At 38, I was again anemic and in more pain. So I applied for disability from my teaching job. And I continued to have digestive problems and intermittent blockages for 17 more years. Sometimes I would start to get gas for what seemed like no reason and go from having a flat stomach, and in less than an hour, I looked like I was 9 months pregnant. There were times I would be running a temperature over 100 for days, and between diarrhea and constipation, sometimes so bad that I had to go to the emergency room. After 17 years, my doctors and I decided that maybe I should risk having a major surgery to take out that last foot of my intestine. When they did that, they discovered a stone that would sometimes block my intestine at the narrowest point. And other times it would come away from it and let the fecal material go through. After they removed that, I stopped having the severe cramps. I still had diarrhea, I still had anemia, but I no longer had the major symptoms that put me in the hospital. And I began to be able to schedule things in my life and do things. Wrong direction here. I never felt sorry for myself, and I don't want anybody here to feel sorry for me. I finished college in the usual 4 years. I worked at Scripps Institution of Oceanography on the waterfront during the summertime. I had friends, I went on trips. I worked in Manhattan for a few years and had that excitement, studied dance and guitar with really wonderful people. After living there, I returned to San Diego, worked at UCSD, and I wrote an environmental newsletter and started a modern dance program with the San Diego Recreation Department. I went back to San Diego State, got a master's degree in dance, and taught the drill team and math classes for 5 years before getting ill to the point that I no longer could teach. I wasn't totally disabled. I just needed to be near a bathroom And I needed to have a special diet, and I needed to sometimes sleep in the morning. So having a regular teaching schedule was no longer possible for me. What was possible, however, was to start a family. We had children. We took a 14-month trip with 2 toddlers in a trailer around the country, 29 states and 3 Canadian provinces. When I wasn't feeling well enough to go on the family outing of the day or to hike, I would sit on a bench and take pictures of nature, watch other children playing while my husband and the 2 kids would go somewhere. Or I'd write in a journal. And I enjoyed myself. And other days I was able to do things. When I couldn't eat the food that other people were eating, I had protein drinks. I drank Ensure. I had scrambled eggs. I got by. I call this resilience. I still have some days where I can't eat normal food, but most of the time I can eat most things. And I know which things to just stay away from. But I don't have the shooting cramps anymore. And I'm very grateful for that. During the time I was raising my children and my pain was the worst, I took up needlepoint. I found concentrating on the stitches took my mind off of my pain. And completing a beautiful project that I could hang on my wall was something that really sustained me and got me interested in other kinds of art as well, which I now do quite often. Some of the other things that I do that some of you might want to do to cope with emotional or physical problems. I started practicing biofeedback. I had training in that early on in this illness. And it used to take me an hour I had learned how to make my forehead cool and my hands warm. I learned how to get my blood pressure to drop 10 to 20 points. It was quite complicated. Now, that's been substituted with paced breathing, which anybody can do. And it only takes 10 minutes and it works. So I highly recommend that. I take a jacuzzi whenever it's available. I have one at home, and when we travel, I try to find hotels that have them when possible. I stop to smell the roses or look at a sunset. I do daily stretches that are specific that help me. I like to walk, especially in nature or on a path that looks at nature. I tighten my muscles and relax whenever I am bedridden and can't get up and move around and do things. I'm not bedridden from this illness very often anymore. I think probably in the last 28 years since my major surgery, at 50, that surgery really made a difference in my life, and I haven't been bedridden except once for another blockage that I had last year. I look for laughter. I read jokes and I watch comedies. I dress in bright colors. Especially if I'm not feeling well or if it's a rainy day wearing something that's cheerful makes me feel more cheerful. I'm not afraid to go to a doctor when I've got any weird thing going on in my body. I'm not afraid of a diagnosis. When they found I had cancer in my breast, I went home and I said, okay, what's the worst case? It's still small. I lose that breast. That's not going to be something that's going to hurt me at this time in my life. I'm not out there topless dancing. You know, nobody but my husband's going to know if I'm missing a breast. That's the worst thing that I felt was going to happen with this. I did not say, oh, it's going to kill me. My grandmother died of breast cancer, but that was before they had early detection. And I reached out to other women that I knew and said, anybody who's gone through this, who's willing to share their experience with me, please contact me. And half a dozen people did. I have support groups. I've been working with the people with Summit Women now for, I don't know, we started in person a year or two before COVID hit, and we've been on the internet since. I also belong to a chronic illness group through First Church, and that group is wonderful for anybody who has that kind of problem. I belong to 2 art groups online, and I play mariachi music with a group at Southwestern. Having groups that I meet with on a regular basis sustains me in ways that I can't do alone. I believe people are just about as happy as they decide to be. I think every single person in this room has some kind of a disability, whether they're talking about it or not, emotional or physical or baggage that is concerning them. And they also have some special gifts that they can use and enjoy, and other people can enjoy. I like helping others. The homeless shelter means a lot to me. I've learned to expect less from myself and less from others, including family members. That way I'm not angry or disappointed if things don't happen the way I would like them to. I know I can't control what other people do or say. I can't even completely control how I react, but I can try. And little things like a cranky grocery clerk that's giving me a hard time because I asked a stupid question, or they rang up something and the computer charged me a wrong amount. Instead of feeling bad or getting bent out of shape, I say, I'm sorry you're having a bad day. Invariably, the expression on their face changes. They become friendlier, more polite, and I feel better. I'm grateful every single day when I wake up and I see that Peter's still there and he's breathing, or he's gone downstairs and the lights are on. And I don't have any pain. And I go, wow, this is going to be a good day. I'm really grateful I was born in the United States, that I have a roof over my head, food in my refrigerator, clothes in my closet, car in the garage, good medical care, and a congregation like this.
Thank you, Carolyn and Pat, for your bravery. And Pierre's coming up. Also, thank you to Debbie, Peter, and Hal. Hymn number 95 in the gray book, There Is More Love Somewhere.
It's right.
Thank you. If we ever need to think about bravery, we have Pierre to think about. And now Carolyn will read Extinguishing the Chalice.
Blessed is the path on which you travel. Blessed is the body that carries you upon it. Blessed is your heart that has heard the call. Blessed is your mind that discerns the way. Blessed is the gift that you will receive by going. Truly blessed is the gift that you will become on the journey. May you go forth in peace.
And be sure to come with us next week for Reverend Justine Sullivan. Together, hand in hand. And maybe we can make, we have so many today, maybe we can make one big circle and include us up here. Someone come up and join us. We'll be happy with what we've got. Thank you. Now joys and concerns and feedback to Pat and Carolyn.